Say hello to oyster bunnies.
Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barber shop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah. It's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John, every time I hear that, I just want to say, OMG. I love barbershop. Man, and it's us they're talking about. Can you believe that?
You're back at Ronnie's, aren't you? You're set adrift on memory bliss, and you're back at Belle Park Plaza, and you're hopping up into that barber chair at Ronnie's.
Okay.
And you say, Ronnie, thanks for sponsoring my baseball team. I'm sorry I only went 3 for 4 last night.
He did.
I'll try to go 4 for 4 next time.
My little kid, I first played Corey League baseball back in the day, Ronnie's Barbershop. And was that Belle Claire Shopping? Or was it Belle Park?
Belle Park Plaza.
Belle Park Plaza.
Yeah.
Up there in Belle Fountain Road, which I'll never forget. The big excitement was when they made a theater. I don't know if you remember this or not. This is probably predates you.
Oh, yeah.
But
this is a great story. You got to tell this one. It's a little bit PG-13, though, so hide the kids' ears.
Jerry Lewis came up with a contest. Yes, the Jerry Lewis, muscular dystrophy, very famous comedian and actor and the whole bit. He came up with a concept. He was upset with what was happening with the movie industry, and he came up with this. He actually called it Jerry Lewis Cinemas, Jerry Lewis Theaters. And the idea was he was only going to run wholesome, family-oriented movies, okay? And he opened up the theater, and it was, small theater up there. And it didn't last long because guess what? Most people don't go see wholesome movies. So it closed and somebody bought it and it started running X-rated movies. Do you remember this? So it went...
Yeah, this was before my time, but there was a very famous movie that came to that specific cinema.
I have to tell you, in my teen years, I saw Clockwork Orange there. If you remember if you know what Clockwork...
Wow, really?
Yes. Yeah, I saw Clockwork Orange. And once again, if you've ever seen Clockwork Orange, I think you have to be premedicated to go see the movie. You know what I'm saying? I think you have to be sort of...
You have to stop by the edible store. You have to do the drive-through edibles. Is that what you're saying?
It's just a bizarre movie. What is it? Stanley Kubrick, wasn't that?
Yeah, that was one of it. That was his signature film, I think.
Yeah, and it's just so weird. I mean,
Ben, you went to that theater. So what you're saying, though, is even after that Jerry didn't own it, you were kind of a Jerry's kid.
Well, that's the only movie I saw there. And I can't remember who I went to go see it with. One of my friends, hey, let's go see. And I think at the time I was 17 or something like that, so I could get in because it was rated. See, they changed the ratings around so they originally came out. Remember, they had all sorts of different things. They had M. There was an M rating, and there was an R, and there was an R something or other, and there was a couple versions of X. And what's interesting through the years, the movies that came out way back when, which were rated X, would now be R's. Some of them would even be PG-13s. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And Brad, what kind of a rating would you usually assign to our show?
Well, My part of it is it's G.
It's G for general audience, don't you think?
John,
I think we are. I think we're. I don't think we delve into tawdry topics.
John's sort of PG-13. He goes into the R category when he starts talking about landing strips and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother story.
Whoa! A little bit of Lambert Airport early on.
That's right.
Anyway, it is Friday, Brad, and back in the day, you would just be so excited to hop on your bike as you told the story, and Friday is a beautiful day, or Shelley Barr would call it. What would she call it? Friday?
Friday, yes, yeah, Friday, yeah.
Friday, yes.
Yeah, which is interesting because on Armstrong and Getty, who comes on right after us at 8 o'clock, I think it's Joe Getty calls it our Friday, or it might be Jack Armstrong. Isn't that terrible? It's just like in the afternoon we have Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins, and I'm still trying to figure out which one's which. And quite honestly, I think there should be a law in the FCC rules and regulations that if you have like a morning team, the two people have to have like dissimilar voices. Now, I think that's pretty easy between you and I, but sometimes you listen to these shows, and don't take this the wrong way, ladies, but if there's two women on a radio show, sometimes I have a real tough time picking up which one's which.
If they talk like this, though, Brad? You know who that's voice is.
Oh, that's the NPR voice.
Yeah.
Okay, that is John Combest. He every single day he puts together, for 22 plus years, puts together a list of all the big stories in the state of Missouri. We start the show off with the top three. We have a guy who comes in, and your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do you do?
We're on our way to the number one.
And moving along from number 3 to number 1, here is number...
In third place.
A lot of drama, a lot of fighting in Jefferson City the last couple days, Brad. We've touched on this at length over the last week. And initiative petition changes, what's colloquially known as IP reform, changing the Missouri initiative petition process, looks like it has hit its final roadblock, and it looks like it will not pass this year, Brad. I have 2 links up today I think that are critical. One of them is from our friends in Springfield, Missouri. KWTO, the great Cass Bowen Anderson, was guest hosting Wake Up Springfield, and she had Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman on to discuss a little bit about what's happened, a little bit about the Republican frustration, anger, misplaced anger when it comes to not getting initiative petition changes on the August ballot or even the November ballot. And then I would also recommend people watch the final midweek update from Scott Fawn. Scott had Mary Elizabeth Coleman on his show yesterday, and she walked through the whole process of how she signed on to do what's called the PQ, the moving the previous question to force a vote on this, and the votes just weren't there from Republicans. So, as you recall from yesterday, Brad, Republicans, and this can be an arcane process, but Republicans voted, the Senate voted to send it back to a House conference. Yesterday, Brad, the House sent it right back and said, essentially, nope, we're not changing this. Either pass it the way it is, or it's going to die. The legislation, it looks like today, barring some sort of last-minute a Hail Mary miracle, initiative petition changes will not appear on the August ballot.
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
Are you there, Brad?
I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
There we go. I sent you a new drop in email today, Brad, and it is fantastic. It involves 2 of my very favorite people.
Who is it? Is this the Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC going back and forth at each other?
No. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a fantastic quote. And you could play it the next time you and I disagree about something. You could play it, and it would apply to me. But so that's the status of. And I have some other I have some other news coverage up. Jason Rosenbaum has a piece from St. Louis Public Radio that I have up today too that I would suggest if you're into more of the print thing, read Rosenbaum's piece.
Have you heard the throwdown yesterday between AOC and MTG?
Yes, and I saw there was MTG was in a separate fight. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before too.
You know, that's what we need in Missouri. We need a couple characters like that. Okay, moving on.
Up a notch to number 2.
Number 2, John.
Kumbaya, my lord. Brad, do you like to sit around with your friends and sing Kumbaya?
I don't. Because
okay, I was listening to some of your God Squad stations, Brad, that you put me on to, and I love hearing that song. But maybe you're not a Kumbaya kind of guy. It turns out that Missouri's federal lawmakers are not kumbaya guys and gals either. There's a center at Georgetown University. It's called the Lugar Center. It's named after the unfortunately named Dick Lugar, which sounds like some sort of penis pistol. But the Dick Lugar Center rates lawmakers based on one thing, Brad. They base it on how likely are you to sponsor legislation with a member of a different party? And dang it, Missouri's lawmakers are second to last. What do you think the only state more partisan, in giant air quotes, more partisan than Missouri is, Brad?
California.
Great guess. I would have guessed that, but I'd be wrong. It was actually Alabama.
Really?
And I guess when you think about it, California has so many electoral votes and so many congressmen that they're probably going to mathematically just sponsor a whole lot of stuff with members of the other party. Anyway, the funny thing is the Kansas City Star, Daniel DeRochers, has a piece where he asked Eric Burlison about it, who's the congressman from the southwest part of the state. And Eric Burlison's like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything that advances the Biden agenda. I don't know why anybody is surprised that I don't sponsor a lot of measures with Democrats. So it's one of those stories where Missouri media can point and say, can you just believe that our delegation is so partisan? They're not even supporting Build Back Better. But uniquely, Brad, one of the people to score a, quote, worse score than Eric Burlison was, of course, Cori Bush, who generally sponsors nothing with Republicans. And you know what? Good for her. She's representing her demographic, that's for sure. And so this is an interesting piece. And that now I'll ask you this: do you know who scored the only representative to score in the top 25% for bipartisanship? Do you know who it is?
In the entire
in Missouri.
In Missouri.
I bet you could guess.
Well, hold it now. Is this for representative, senator?
Yeah, U.S. representative.
U.S. representative. Would it be Blaine Luetkemeyer?
Good guess, but it's actually Ann Wagner.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that, remember, she has a lot of status as it relates to financial services, and so I think she's sponsored some bipartisan measures there, and then she's also involved with some of the radioactive stuff too. So anyway, that story is from the Kansas City Star. That's number 2 today, Brad.
And now,
the number one.
Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker continues to make headlines. The fallout, Brad, from his dastardly suggestion that, well, everything you've heard about COVID and, women's rights and everything like that is so far off base. Now, again, Brad, usually I don't link to this type of stuff because it had to do with Kansas, a state that it's impossible for me to care less about. But because it involves the Chiefs and because so many people in Missouri are weighing in on this, I included it today. I put one piece up and one piece only, and it is from our friend Tony Bateo in Kansas City at Tony'sKansasCity.com. And Tony did a whole compendium of national and local coverage of what people are saying about this. And I know you've seen this, Brad, because you've probably seen even more of this than I have. But people are apoplectic about the fact that someone dare say, quote, conservative views or even Catholic views publicly today.
I that's what I'm amazed about. I mean, even to the point where now, in full, shall we say, what I want to say,
disclosure.
Well, not necessarily this. Well, disclosures. That's not where it was heading with this, but that'd probably be the best word. Full disclosure. Okay, I was raised by a mother who was a women's libber before the women's libber were women's libber. My mom was a very interesting woman for her time, a graduate of Washington University. That's my mom and dad met. They were both students at Washington University. My mom got a degree in speech and hearing therapy, went on to get several other degrees, a master's degree. Same thing with my dad. They were both sort of very well-educated people. Okay, my mom was very much into the aspect of matter of fact, she'd get upset because being in education, she knew that she could never rise any farther than a department chairperson. She couldn't be an assistant principal or a principal or a superintendent and that kind of stuff because women didn't do those kind of jobs. Okay, obviously things have changed. Now, what I find interesting about this is that Harrison Butker, what is it, Butker? Butner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Butker.
Butker. Okay. He's not saying this is what you should do. He's essentially giving his opinion on what women should do. And once again, It's his opinion. And once again, he's a very devout Catholic, and he has a wife who is essentially, at least outwardly, okay with her position in life. And I say more power to him. Now, what's interesting about this is, just like you said, if somebody would have gotten up there and said, I think that we should not have men or women anymore, we're all unisex, and people go, yeah, it's great, yeah.
It's so brave. They'd say, so can you believe the brave speech that was given by the strong non-binary?
Right. Now, the interesting thing was, I have a friend of mine who eats, drinks, and sleeps the NFL. And this particular person called me yesterday, and I said, what do you think? And this particular person said, oh, my God, this is terrible for the NFL. And I go, why is that?
Oh, God.
And I said, and the interesting thing, this was yesterday morning, and the interesting thing was, it's going to hurt a lot of the things for the NFL. Sales of jerseys and things like that are going to go down. Now, what's interesting was, yesterday afternoon, guess what one of the top stories, the number 7 Harrison Butker Kansas City Chiefs jersey was like number 2 on the NFL.com list.
And I saw someone comment on this yesterday, and I don't know, I don't remember who it was, but they said, who would have ever thought 2 years ago that the number 3 selling jersey on the Kansas City Chiefs would be Patrick Mahomes?
Well, the crazy part of this is, did you hear the Patrick Mahomes quote? Which I think is
what did he say? What did he say?
I think this is unfortunate. Patrick Mahomes' quote was, he doesn't talk to him. And now
really? Like they're not friends?
Well, part of this is you have to understand, this is, you're not a big football fan, right, John?
Yeah, I don't watch football every week. No.
Well, the kickers are typically, in almost every case, not every case, but almost every case, the kickers are not treated the same by their fellow teammates, because typically the kickers tend to be not the biggest dudes, not the scariest dudes, and not the guys who.
And they're not considered real. I knew football players in high school that said that kickers weren't real football players. They didn't even deserve a jersey.
Right, that kind of a thing. But yet some of the highest scoring NFL players are kickers. Because of the fact that years ago,
Adam Vinatieri among them. Yeah.
Right, years ago we had the guy when the football Cardinals were in town, Jim Bakken, who was extremely good. So I'm thinking to myself, how sad is that? A team, here we got Patrick Mahomes, who looks like, for all intents and purposes from the outside, a really good guy, and yet he says he doesn't talk to the guy. And I'm thinking to myself, that's so sad. Now, the point of that is if I'm not mistaken, in the latest Super Bowl, and I think Harrison was in all 3 of the Super Bowl wins that the Kansas City Chiefs played in. I think he's been with the team since, like 6 or 7 years now, or something like that.
Yeah, he's been with the team for a while.
I mean, he scored enough points in almost all those games. I have to go back and look at the latest Super Bowl. I think if it wouldn't have kicked a couple of field goals, the Kansas City Chiefs would have lost. So
for sure.
How can you say, I just don't get the whole thing?
I think it's probably just, and I didn't see the quote and I didn't see the context, but it sounds like it's just an easy out for him to throw his hands up and say, let's just hope this passes for right now.
Well, the sad part of this is you go back 50 years. And if the same speech would have been given, nobody would have said squat. You know what I mean? I mean, nobody would have said.
Of course not.
Nobody would have said anything. And especially you and I both growing up in North County, and North County, at least when I was there, I think it probably changed a little bit by the time you'd graduated, but North County was like Catholic city, okay? You had, Rosary High School, Our Lady Loretti, you had all the different Catholic schools. You had, what was the...
St. Aloysius. I was the only non-Catholic family on my street, Brad. Literally, I was the only non-Catholic family.
That's what I'm saying. And what was the high school up there on 270 up in North County that is now
Aquinas Mercy?
Aquinas, right? What Aquinas? Well, I think it was just originally Aquinas.
It was just Aquinas for a while, and then it became Aquinas Mercy.
And then they closed 2 of the other Catholic high schools, and they made Rosary into what they call it Trinity, because it was 3 different.
Yep.
And now it's gone too. I mean, I'm going like, God. And you know what? My mom, I shouldn't say this. My mom used to always get mad at the Catholic kids in our street because there's a lot of vandalism happen in our street. My mom used to always say, well, those kids, they can do anything they want because they can just go into confession. Everything's okay then. My mom used to say that all the time.
But that's how you feel about this show, Brad, right? You feel like you can do anything after 8 a.m. and then you get on here at 7 o'clock and you can just confess to our listeners.
I can confess all my sins and things like that. I don't know.
Hey, real quick, here's a point that I got from Tony's Kansas City. He in his digging and the tips he got, it says the mother of Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker is an accomplished physicist. Now, if that's true, isn't that remarkable?
Well, if you've heard his speech, not only is he a great kicker, he is an incredible orator. I mean, the guy I'm thinking to myself, if my speech teachers, public speaking, whatever you call it, back in the day, would have heard that speech, A+. I mean, not necessarily content, but just the way he delivered it. And once again, what do you think of with a lot of football players? Yeah, well, I want to tell you about how I feel about this. Yeah, when I'm out there in the football field, I'm out there to kick some butt. You know what I mean? It's sort of that like.
You stump Mitchell? Come on.
You know what I'm saying. Okay.
I know exactly what you mean.
We have to take a break. Okay, I want to throw a couple things out to you that we need to talk about. First off, next break, Mark Cox, okay? And
oh, great. Yeah.
I will preface this by saying I have the utmost respect for Mark. Was a great journalist when he was at Channel 4, an incredible talk show host at 97.1. I know the guy. From time to time, I text him and he texts back. And the last couple of weeks, I've texted him a couple of things. He hasn't texted back. And yesterday, I mentioned the fact that I texted him and he didn't text back. Well, he did text back after I got off the air. And
let's hear. Yeah, we'll hear about it next break.
It was quite interesting. And once again, he's personifying what I say is wrong with the radio business. Now, I'll just put it out there.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?